Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So, we already made a video about the first meta of the season, the victory track and GC weeks 1 and 2 meta. But obviously now the really important one. The one that makes you want to rank up champions for. The one that you should be ranking up champions for. And that, again, especially for this season, I have seen like a massive kind of error from players' part. Because I have seen so many people specifically rank up so many champions for invade meta without leaving many rank up materials or any for the Polka power shield meta. And that's generally not the best way to go. Because realistically speaking, the weeks 1 and 2 meta is kind of irrelevant to your season placement. What you want to be doing is ranking up for this meta, because this is the one that's going to determine where you place. So, that said, we do have an offensive node, Red Scare. Every time an #offensive.champion applies damaging effect with the duration, they gain a 15% wishes buff lasting 20 seconds, max stacks 5. And this wishes also enhances damaging passives and burst effects. So this is going to somewhat of a supercharge a handful of champions. But the most significant nodes here is number 1, Polka power. Means you gain no power from striking the opponent or getting struck. The only way to get power is, number 1, ability power rate, such as Mystic Dispersion, such as Hyperion power gain, so on and so forth, and also by having a damage over time effect or debuff on the opponent, and then you're going to be gaining X amount of power every second. And then we have Power Shield, which means you do no damage on your basic attacks, but most champions' dots still work, just FYI. And then obviously your special attacks deal 400% more damage. There is Hurt Locker to make this all even more interesting and significantly more annoying, to be honest. Because you can't activate 2 special attacks of the same power level in a row, or you potentially lose 50% of your current health. So it's very nasty, and I often forget about it, and it's such a frustrating thing. But anyways, this means that this meta is designed completely opposite to most metas here, because half of the champions are unusable, just period. Half of the champions have 0 offensive use, because unless you have access to dot effects on your base hits, the basically champion can't do any damage at all. For instance, you can bring in, I don't know, an Iron Man here, and nothing you do will damage the opponent, because you can't damage them with your basic attacks and you gain no power, thus you can't get to a special attack and basically do 0 damage. So this is the type of meta where you need to be very conscious about what you bring in on your account, on your roster basically. So let's go over some of the more popular options here. So let's start with skill class. Obviously skill class in general has quite a few bleed reliant champions, however, again, that is a fairly common immunity, just to keep in mind. Frankencastle is quite nice for this, because he does have that incinerate on heavy attacks, and then he does interact quite well with the power shield as well. He does have immunity to poison, which can be helpful at times, but yeah, it's mainly going to be he's okay attacker in this meta. We have Punisher, who does have access to bleeds on his basic attacks, and he would also still be a notable defender. Yelena below, obviously offensively she's going to be borderline useless, because she doesn't have damage over time effects available to her on her base. However, she's by far and away one of the gnarliest defenders in this meta, so keep that in mind. Then we have Okoye, perfectly built champion for this. Effectively, you will be inflicting ton of dots, and you do have bleeds, and you do have shocks, and she works amazingly well. Nick Fury, access to bleed, and as always, significant defender. Then we have Massacre. Massacre kind of is pulling a double duty this time around, because again, you can access damage over time effects, which would be incinerate on your base hits, and additionally power shield would improve your damage on that special 2 in the block as well. And yeah, he functions quite well for this as well, if you have chosen to rank him up, especially because he's good also for invade. Also, Bloodstone would be quite good for this, because she does have access to burst of damage on her base, and those specials, and then the dots having the increased damage potential would work quite well. So I expect Elsa to be quite nice for this. Baron Zemo is kind of a cheeky defender. He's going to be borderline useless now, but he's going to be completely useless offensively, But defensively, the fact that he shrugs off debuffs and then roots the opponent can turn him into a quirky and very annoying defender to deal with in this meta. There are obviously still options available there, but he can definitely catch people off guard on defense. Captain Britain's back to being a menace. There aren't too many great options against Captain Britain for this meta. Obviously, we still do have Yondu, we still have a handful of other champions, but yeah, she's significantly more dangerous as a defender here, because there are just less viable champions that counter her that work in this meta. For instance, Jack doesn't work, and plenty of others don't, like the Maker doesn't. Now we have Cassandra Noah. I actually took mine to rank 4 because she's amazing for this stuff. You kind of play her as normal and then go for your level 1, then go for your level 2, and she inflicts a ton of damage, more so than normal. And these nodes interact very well with her playstyle, where you can just be charging the heavy attacks. Do not strike the opponent too much, because in this meta it doesn't matter. You do not do any damage to your base hits anyways. You don't gain any power with your base hits anyways. So yeah, she works very well for this meta. Deadpool X-Force. Again, he has kind of like a niche matchup list here because he is reliant to the bleed, unlike normal, where, if opponent is immune to bleed, he can just finish the fights off with his bleed debuffs. In this meta, you cannot do that. If opponent is bleed immune, you're kind of shit out of luck. But level 1 just nukes anything, so he's very, very powerful here. Then we have Domino. Quite a viable defender because many of her counters do not work, and she's also technically usable enough on attack with her power gain on parries and her crit fail damage counting as dot for those moments. So in a pinch she can be used defensively too, but she's also more annoying defender than normal. We have Jean Grey once again being like one of the most insane nukes here. First of all, you do have access to Neuroshocks, and basically nothing in the game is immune to Neuroshock. And second of all, the way she interacts with Power Shield is just filthy. Get your level 2 and your opponent's going to be dead. And yeah, she's very brutal. And obviously still a viable defender. Iceman's actually a legit option for this meta as well, because again, he always has had his like niche defensive role, where if he's high sig, opponent's going to be taking some damage. Then in this meta, his trip immunities guarantee that he's gonna have some defensive value on top of it, because again, bleed, poison, cold snap, and incinerate immunity will automatically disable quite a few champions in this meta in particular. And then offensively, he's actually quite capable too. Havoc works nice because his heavy attack debuff is considered as a dot, so he can gain the power from the node, and he interacts quite well with the power shield. And obviously there's tons of energy damage champions right now in the game, and he kind of functions quite nice for that too. Onslaught, build up straight to level 2 and destroy the opponent. Onslaught is filthy in the power shield meta. Transport is quite filthy. Yeah, get your level 2 and nuke. Then you have Bastion. Bastion works well too, mainly because barely anything is immune to the disintegration, and his level 1s slap in this meta. So Bastion is quite a dangerous champ here for sure. Then we have Fam. Fam again has dual purpose. He is solid defender, especially with his 10% damage cap, so quite a few champions that would nuke him otherwise will not be able to do that now. And then obviously you can still get the disintegration on the opponent. You might have a bit of a slow start here, but his level 2 will dispose of anything afterwards as well, so definitely a solid option here. Ironheart, legitimately good champion for this meta. Has access to Rapture and Incinerate, so she will work just about always. Is extremely versatile, and with a power shield, she's going to be doing quite a lot of damage. Sentinel still works reasonably fine. Initially, you are forced to rely on the shock from your heavy attacks, but that also, can work out fine because you drop your heavy attack and you inflict that Intimidate, and then you strike the opponent's block while still gaining power from that shock, and then kind of rinse and repeat. And then obviously level 2 with power shield will annihilate everything. He's just not as impressive as in the invade meta. Then you have Solvark, again, access to Cold Snap, so that's kind of nice, but you do need to use him kind of properly. You do need to build up 3 bars of power before you actually start doing damage with him. So keep in mind that. I actually kind of trapped myself here in the friendlies with him with improper rotation. Then we do have Yondu. Yondu is, again, quite a brutal, beautiful champion for this. Yondu works well. He has access to Rapture, and then obviously access to Furies on the level special 2s that will do a ton of damage. Yeah, Yondu is great. Prowler works well. You do have the Incinerate on the heavy attack that you can basically hold the opponent on the opponent indefinitely, get your level 2, and you're going to be doing just fine. Prowler's quite nice. Hyperion is one of the few cosmic champions that actually works offensively well in this meta because he does have his power gain naturally, and you also have access to Incinerate on level 1 that interacts extremely well with the power shield. So Hype is a legitimate rank up option for these metas. I actually might rank up my Hype for this. Caroline Dean works reasonably well, not as well as Hype does in this meta, because your first level 2 is kind of long time coming. You will get to level 2 with your natural power gain, but it's gonna take like 30 some seconds. Then, however, once you have your level 2, most of the things will die, because power shield plus, all this damage from Carolina is gonna interact very, very well. And once your first level 2 is off, you have Incinerates on the opponent, and you end up doing a ton of damage and gaining power significantly quicker. Now, theoretically speaking, Dracula should be very good for this. I haven't tested it out, but he should be very good for this. Let me know how it works out for you guys, or has worked out. Then we have Kushala, an absolute menace. She gains power by placing, buffs on the opponent, then you drop your level 1, and everything basically dies. Kushala is an absolute menace. Now, Kindred, once again, being extremely potent, gnarly, annoying defender. So you can use him offensively too, even though it's going to be kind of slow and you first need to get your degens up. So it's not going to work amazing, but he's obviously here primarily for defense. Nico still works great because, again, you start with the buff immunity, you drop that heavy attack, you place the poison on opponent, and you gain the power, and your power shield is going to absolutely cook the defenders with that massive, massive poison damage. We have Spiral. Access to Rapture. Obviously, you can alternate your special attacks quite freely. She's going to work great too in the Mystic class. Werewolf, one of the MVPs for this. I think I had like several 30-some second fights with Werewolf. He's an absolute menace in the Power Shield meta. Tigra, obviously still works amazing. Get your level 2 and just about everything dies. Then we have Human Torch, one of the few science champions that works, and amazingly at that because nobody's immune to Nova Flames. So he does a solid job, and his target matchups for sure. Scorpion, possibly the best science champion for this because you do have, access to 3 different dots. So he will always be able to gain power. And then on top of it all, if you do combine his level 2 with charging heavy attack in order to increase the burst damage, then you end up doing very nice, significant amount of damage to the point where level 2 can KO opponent in one level 2. Morbius is actually kind of underrated for this. Easy access to dots. If he's awakened especially, then, bleed or rapture. And then that level 2 with power shield, with guaranteed crit, set to finish just about everything off. And then we also have Lizard, obviously one of the few science champions that does have easy access to debuffs. In this case being rapture. And so he's still perfectly functional. Obviously, there are a handful of other champions that would work that I have not mentioned in this meta. Thing is a very viable defender because, again, Power Shield generally would make him trigger his protection. So I have ranked up Thing for this meta. And yeah, as there are other champs that I did not mention, like Eyebomb would do fine because he does have his Poison Dot. But these largely are the projected MVPs for the meta. Let me know what you guys think. Who have you tested out and that has worked well for you? But I'm going to catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all been